Every year leading up to the NBA draft, we love to compare the top prospects to former and current players in the league. Sometimes these comparisons work out perfectly, and sometimes they leave us scratching our head. In this video, we're going to look at some comparisons of the top prospects in the 2019 NBA draft. So if you guys like my content, make sure you like and subscribe. The support lately has been absolutely insane, so if we could, let's try to get 7,000 likes on today's video, and let's hop right into it. Draft comparisons are a very controversial topic. Everyone has their own opinion on them. Half the people think everyone is the next LeBron James. The other half hate those high expectations, which I actually want to rant about real quick. There's nothing wrong with comparing prospects to some of the best players we've ever seen, such as that Andrew Wiggins-Kobe comparison that was spammed leading up to the 2014 NBA draft. It comes down to the simple fact we're talking about the best of the best, the top of the draft. If you're going to take a guy that's a quote-unquote 3-and-D player with a top 5 selection, are you drafting them hoping to find the next Trevor Ariza or Kawhi Leonard? These picks are valuable. We have multi-billion-dollar organizations tanking to get these top selections to take people that are instantly going to become some of the most economically valued in society. There's nothing wrong with those best-case scenario comparisons and nothing wrong with high expectations. Now, I'm fine with feeling that a player doesn't have to drop 20 and 10 as a rookie, obviously, but if they're in their third-plus season and you're still waiting on that breakout year, there is nothing wrong with beginning that bust conversation. So in this video, we're going to be comparing top prospects in the 2019 NBA draft to some of the best current and former NBA talent, but I want to make this very clear for these comparisons. No one's expecting them to be exactly like these players. Every player is individually very different, and for all we know, they could exceed the careers of these given comparisons or become some of the biggest busts in NBA history. With all that being said, we're going to start it off with the projected #1 overall pick in the draft, Zion Williamson. Now, Zion is hard to find a comparison for. We're talking about a 6'7", 285-pound power forward that can jump out the gym with a 40-plus inch vertical, whose potential matched his output in college as he managed to get 23 points, 9 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, shooting almost 70% from the field and 34% from 3. No comparison is perfect for Zion as he's one of the most unique prospects we've ever seen, but there has been some somewhat similar players in NBA history. The first one we're going to look at would be Charles Barkley. Barkley was a 3-year player at Auburn where he managed to get 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks in his junior season. This comparison really comes out in his frame as Barkley stood at 6'6", 275 pounds with a 37-inch vertical and managed to go with the 5th overall pick in the 1984 NBA draft. Despite being undersized as a position, Barkley would average 23 points and 15 rebounds in just his 3rd season. The following year, he would up his offensive output to 28 points per game. Just like Zion, he's best fit at the power forward position, but was no slouch in the open court or when it came to his ball handling ability. With sneaky speed and physical dominance, Barkley became one of the best power forwards to ever do it, and while the game was much different in Barkley's era, I think this comparison is pretty fair. Another solid comparison for Zion would be Larry Johnson, just like Barkley, undersized at 6'6", but being 250 pounds with elite athleticism more than made up for that lack of height. As a prospect, he stands up pretty nicely to Zion. In his sophomore season at UNLV, he managed to get 23 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block on amazing efficiency, and with that production combined with incredible athleticism, he ended up becoming the #1 overall pick in 1991. Now, Larry Johnson would dominate as a rookie, getting 19 and 11, and would continue to have 5 amazing seasons on the Charlotte Hornets. After that, injuries would really slow him down, but as far as comparison for Zion, him and Barkley are as close as you're gonna get with how unique of a prospect Zion is. Next, we got Ja Morant, a 6'3" point guard who flew up the board in his sophomore season at Murray State, as he managed to average almost 25 points per game, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field and 36% from 3, and is set to become the #2 pick in the NBA draft to the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Ja Morant's athleticism going at the rim with consistent acrobatic finishes is enough to get you excited, but his ability to shoot off the dribble alongside making a difference on both ends and leading the country in assists is what made him a top 3 prospect in this draft. Now, the common comparisons for Morant would be Westbrook and Derrick Rose. The Westbrook comparison I really don't like. Westbrook coming out of college was a shooting guard, and despite averaging a triple-double, is not that playmaker he's made out to be, which I really feel is the most intriguing attribute of Ja. I feel the same way about that D-Rose comparison. Now, for the one that makes the most sense to me, that would have to be John Wall. John Wall is a 6'4" point guard who in his one season at Kentucky showed his athleticism, skill going at the rim, and two-way ability, which was good enough to become the #1 overall pick in the 2010 NBA draft. Wall's success would continue at the next level, becoming one of the best playmakers in the NBA, and improving as a shooter, as in 2016, averaged 20 points, 10 assists, shooting almost 35% from 3. I like this comparison as both players shine on defense and as playmakers, but can fly above the rim and have decent but inconsistent ability to create their own shot off the dribble. Just like a lot of these guys, there's no perfect comparison, but if you need to find one for Morant, I think Wall is your guy. I also really like the comparison, even though he's only in his 2nd year of De'Aaron Fox, who received these same Wall comparisons going into the 2017 NBA draft, and as far as a frame, he's a much more comparable player. Next, we got RJ Barrett, who went into the season projected to be the #1 overall pick, and probably would still be that #1 overall selection if it wasn't for the rising stock of Zion Williamson and Ja Morant. So it's looking like he's going to be that #3 pick to the New York Knicks. Now, RJ Barrett was one of the best players in college basketball this season, as he managed to get 23 points, 4 assists, while shooting 45% from the field, but disappointed with his inconsistency behind the arc, as despite taking over 6 attempts a game, only shot 31% from 3, but RJ Barrett's ability to create his own shot and decision making both in the open and half court makes him an amazing prospect, and at times this season, especially towards the end of the year, we saw RJ Barrett take over as a primary ball handler, where he really showed his versatility. My favorite comparison for him, which to me was pretty obvious and I haven't seen it much, would be Grant Hill. RJ Barrett's smooth game that's not limited by really anywhere on the court, combined with very solid playmaking ability at his position, reminds me a lot of Grant Hill. Now, RJ Barrett did struggle from 3, and Grant Hill was really never a 3-point threat, but I want to make it clear that I still think RJ Barrett will be a decent player beyond the arc. Another one I really don't mind, and I've seen a lot lately, mainly due to their almost identical measurements, would be DeMar DeRozan. His athleticism and mid-range ability is very similar to what we saw out of RJ this season. Next, we got Cam Reddish, who disappointed us statistically in his lone season at Duke, as he shot less than 36% from the field and 33% from 3, but it'd be ridiculous to discredit him too much as a prospect. Cam had to take a backseat to Zion and RJ this season, but being 6'8", 7-foot plus wingspan and a smooth shooting stroke still makes him deservingly a top prospect in this draft. My favorite comparison for him right now would be Rudy Gay, both similar builds, 6'8", 6'9", just over a 7-foot wingspan. They both have very fluid, very smooth games. Gay's ability to use his size to his advantage, shoot with an elite level, and solid finishing compares very nicely to Cam, and it just might be my favorite comparison so far. Next, we got Deandre Hunter. Now, this one's tough. We deal with one of these players every draft, that 3-and-D guy. Now, Hunter's size, elite defense, incredible efficiency at Virginia is what has scouts excited about him, and a lot of mocks have him popping into the top 5 of this draft. Now, prospect-wise, he's very similar to what we've seen in recent history, such as Mikal Bridges last season and Josh Jackson the year before, and just like Hunter, we saw these guys get compared to Jimmy Butler and Kawhi Leonard with a remarkable two-way ability, and obviously that's what you're hoping for when you're drafting Deandre Hunter. Now, Hunter hasn't shown enough with the ball in his hands to make these comparisons very solid, but in all honesty, these kind of prospects have the hardest development to predict, as their upside is very dependent on development of their offensive skills, but they're coming in with very high floors. Right now, my favorite comparison for him would have to be Robert Covington, but I do see nothing wrong with that Kawhi Leonard comparison. Next, we got Darius Garland, who we only got to see play in 4 games this season, but it gave us enough to know about his lethal scoring ability. My comparison for Garland has to be pretty obvious, and that's going to be Kyrie Irving, who just like Garland had his freshman season cut short due to an injury, but still became a top pick in the 2011 NBA draft. Garland is a certified bucket, score-first point guard who has amazing handles, ability to score on practically every inch of the basketball court, but you shouldn't expect him to play above the rim or give you much on the defensive end. Does that remind you of anyone? Well, it was a much bigger sample size for Kyrie. Their numbers in college were practically identical. Obviously, Kyrie is one of the most skilled players in NBA history, but when looking for a comparison for Garland, I think this is the best option and obviously what you're looking for when taking him. For the last of the top tier prospects, we've got Jarrett Culver, and I'm going to be giving him the comparison of Jimmy Butler. Both players have great size at that shooting guard spot, are tenacious defenders, and thrive with the ball in their hand. Culver was much more inconsistent behind the arc than in his freshman season. This is something Jimmy Butler has struggled with at times of his career, and to this day is still not a high volume scorer behind the arc. Just like everyone on this list, this is a generous comparison, but with similarities as great defenders and ability to be a secondary ball handler, I think it fits pretty nicely. Next, we're going to look at some comparisons for some mid-tier prospects. I'll start that off with Nazir Little, who really had no offensive production whatsoever in his freshman season at North Carolina. Really didn't have much of a role, but I'm going to compare him to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is a former 3rd overall pick, but in college really wasn't a 3-point threat, but with his size, athleticism, and defensive ability, still managed to go in the top of that draft. And obviously for the Boston Celtics, he's become a solid defender and solid 3-point shooter, and that's obviously what you're hoping for with Nazir Little. He's got that crazy 7'1" plus wingspan. He's got the size. The real question is just what he can do on the offensive side. I think Jaylen Brown's career is a good one to model after. Another guy we got would be Jackson Hayes. He's a shot blocking power forward slash center at Texas, and I'm gonna have him compared to Clint Capella. His measurements stack up almost identical, right around 6'11", 220 pounds, right around a 7'4" wingspan, both great at catching lobs, finishing at the rim, and obviously known for their shot blocking ability. I think that's a pretty solid comparison. And lastly, we've got Bol Bol. This one's really tough to do. Bol Bol's got a frame that's comparable to someone like Rudy Gobert, but a skill set of someone more like Kristaps Porzingis. We haven't really seen a player like Bol Bol, so I'm gonna have to settle with midway between Kristaps and Rudy Gobert. But that's the video, guys. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe. And the shoutouts are gonna be Ooga Booga Boy, Bryce L, Go Wolf, B Young 5, and Precision Raps. If you guys want to shout out in the next video, all you gotta do is like the video, comment like, and I'll shout 5 of you guys out. With all that being said, hope you guys have a great day, and peace.